Welcome everyone to the first edition, third season of the Goddess Technology Podcast. I am your host, Adina Gittens-Smith, the Goddess of Magical Movement. I have the distinct pleasure to sit here in Atlanta with the amazing Lamman Rucker, who has come to recognize and be the example of divine masculine and divine feminine harmony. That's how we're functioning together. We're going to talk about the Goddess Technology Retreat in Bali. We're going to talk about some of the amazing things Lamman has been doing in the community. And then we're going to talk to the ladies as well. So Lamman, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Everybody, thanks for being here. And, thanks for having me. And again, thanks really just for being part of this community and in this conversation. I love the work that you all are doing, the conversations that you're having, the experiences that you're cultivating together. And this work has been happening for generations, but it's nice to see and know, right, who's doing it and where it's coming from, and that, and then even the trust that this is being done in a way that's coming from a pure place and being executed for the good of so many. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
I'm excited too. And those of you who don't know, Lamman is my brother. Okay, we have known each other since we were babies.
When I used to be short, somebody said
he was always taller than me.
That's how I told it. Like, I remember when you used to be short. I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense too.
A beautiful person in spirit and in deed. No, really, just in terms of the artistry and the care. The care has always been there. So for you to take the time to speak with us and to really get behind women who are getting behind healing. And he also works with brothers too in this whole Bro Just Heal movement. So we're going to talk about that. But if you want to talk a little bit about how, because people are like, how you know Lamman? Like, Lamman is my brother. When I tell you he's my brother, this is my brother. This is my brother. Okay. So like yes.
Long time.
Long, way back. Like Cadillac seats. That's they go way back.
These seats don't even go back far.
They don't go back far as we go back. But that being said, people can know folks for a long time and then still not take the time that you have taken to work with me and these ladies on what we're talking about. So I don't want to take it lightly. It's not just that we've known each other a long time, but we've been in community.
Yeah, right. And considering each other family. I mean, all that means something. It makes a difference. It's not just about knowing each other or being in association.
Yes.
It's relationship. It's actually being a relationship. And you're looking at, laughing about the pictures we remember from however so many years ago of me and, and the boys, at least the two oldest, right? So, just countless memories. And long before either one of us were the twinkle in anybody's, romantic eye, before marriage or children were in the equation whatsoever, we were running around as teenagers, together, just the same. So just thinking about those times, those moments, and all of that culminates into so much of the work we're doing. It informs all of this, the people that we've learned from, the lessons we've learned, places we've been, the people we know. And so yeah, doing this work throughout communities and throughout, my years in many different parts of the country and even the world, having been to Bali before, living in Japan as a child, working with communities, being in education and philanthropic work and other activism. There's just so much being involved and engaged and surrounded, engulfed in the arts for my entire life. There's just so much of this spiritual energy that has come in and around us and through us. And now we're like, yeah, let's start giving this some shape, right? And creating opportunities where people can bring all of their brilliance together too, right? And these conversations just take on a whole nother level.
So we didn't say that. We were in a young people's performing group together in the DC area as teenagers. So early on, we were on stage, we were in rehearsals, we were doing, all kind of stuff, traveling as teenagers, performing. And here we are still our butts, but it built integrity.
Yeah.
And it was community work. So that
Yes,
community
indeed.
work was really born in
And
us.
so many of us have still stayed connected
We've stayed
over the years.
connected.
I mean, there's at least a handful of us or more,
Mhm.
you know, and then those, you know, again, rest in peace, some that we've lost. But yeah, I mean, so
Mhm.
those were great roots
They were
to
great
have.
roots, deep roots.
And we've all kind of done all these other great, wonderful
Mhm.
things and
Mhm.
become all these great, wonderful
Wonderful
people.
things,
And
exactly.
I don't think that, and there's no, that's not a coincidence.
But the core of us is still the same.
Yeah, of
The
course.
core of us is still the
Yeah.
same. So that is our history, where we come from and how we wind up to be here all these many years later. So I'm saying all of that to say, now that I am working with women specifically, and the Goddess Technology Retreat Bali in particular is a really amazing time for women to come together and work on sacred self-care, being a sacred container where we are caring for ourselves. But sometimes women think when we're working on ourselves that we're negating the masculine. I'm sitting here with Lamman to tell you, no, we don't negate the masculine. We harmonize with the masculine. It's not one or the other, it's both and so Lamman, as a representative of the divine masculine,
Of the and.
And yes, the and.
Right.
Our creation. I wanted to ask you, Lamman, from your perspective, why do you think self-care is important for women? Like, you know, as just a man and what you've seen, how do you see that being a key point in really healing?
Well, again, I think, you know, without making a whole bunch of people angry at me, that the essence of creation is female. I think that that divine, infinite power, right, is an actual female power. So that can be a lot of pressure, right? So the last thing you want to do is you know, just load on top of the superwoman, right, kind of construct. But just the same, as opposed to it being a mechanism of pressure or expectation, just understanding that there should actually be some peace that comes with understanding it begins with you. You know, and I think if women understand that and really appreciate it, not abuse it, not manipulate it, not weaponize it, but literally appreciate and accept the fact that, oh yeah, it begins with me. Like literally it all begins with me. And not that you have to do it all, but again, even as a man, and even however evolved I consider myself to be, even from a male and a masculine perspective, I know throughout my life, most men, I feel, walk on the earth kind of like, you know, we look to you. How is she? Where is she? What is she feeling? What does she need? Right? Like the temperature, just like when most people wake up and then they're, what's the weather? Like, what's the weather like today? It sometimes is going to dictate, it's going to dictate how you do so many things. So similar, what is Mother Nature? Yeah. What is her weather report? You know what I'm saying? Right. So, and that's everything from mood to need to energy to, and again, then I think a lot of times what women don't often understand is the natural, I think, intrinsic male response is, how do I serve that? How do I balance that? How do I then, you know, it's kind of like, oh, again, sometimes, oh, okay, what do I need to shield myself from some of what's coming? But right, not as a, you know, to detach from her, but to say, no, I still am going to engulf and engage and surround myself in everything that is her, but I might need a coat. Yeah. You know, I might need a raincoat today. I might need a scarf around my neck because it's gonna be more than
It's not static.
and depending on what it is and what that energy is, it then often teaches us and tells us, all right, now that I understand what the temperature is, now I know how to move.
You know what to do.
Right. And then there are other times where there's another part of us that says, I don't care what your temperature is. This is how we're going to need to move. Right. Yeah. So that sometimes is when our masculine energy or our leadership or our, you know, whatever, our caveman mentality sometimes even, which isn't, can be looked upon as good or bad, alpha male, all this stuff that people, you know, identified as or label it as. But again, it doesn't always have to be a counterbalance, but it is a, it's that harmony balance. So again, I really think, again, there's so many ways we can talk about this, but I really think that's something for a lot of women to hear, and hopefully they appreciate that without taking that, personally, or again, me trying to load more on your shoulders, but it's really just understanding like, hey, it literally, life, creation, temperature, what today is going to be is based on, is based on you. And then based on how you begin, that doesn't always necessarily mean that's how the day's going to end. That's why we're here. So just because that's where you are, we can be right there. That's where you want to be. That's where we need to be. I need to kind of just leave you alone and let you be there. Cool. That's where you are. Hey, I'm right here. Like, I'll still be here. You know what I'm saying?
Do y'all hear what he's saying? Without us as women and goddesses knowing what we're doing, they by the masculine don't really have anything to do. Like, the first thing they do is check in with us
most
to
of the
see
time. Yeah.
Are we good?
Straight
okay.
Up.
So
because we love you.
Right. And that's what's intrinsic for us
Yeah.
to know that as we get ourselves together, this is how it has the ripple effect, because the masculine is then there to support our getting ourselves together. And
while we're also doing our own work.
And they have their own work.
Right. Yeah.
So when we're talking about our relationship,
but it helps us.
Yeah.
It helps us to help you.
It's a circle.
Yeah.
And that's the only
it's communication.
Work. This loving each other really is the only work that's really valuable to do. The other stuff is just survival, but the work of our lives is this work that we're talking about.
And it's the love, it's the love transfer that's important too, as opposed to like, oh, that's what the weather is. It's like, oh, that's what the weather is today. Okay.
Now I know how to see.
And I'm checking for other information. I'm looking at your eyes. I'm looking at skin. I'm looking at your body language. I'm listening to the tone of your voice. I'm hearing things in you you might not even be able to hear. And this isn't just necessarily just a love equation, or this isn't a husband and wife dynamic. This is, of course, but I mean in a romantic sense. This is somebody you work with. This is the whoever's the bus driver. She's on the train next to you. Whoever this woman,
reading all of them.
You're feeling and reading all of that, and it helps. We're moving based upon what all of those, and again, all of those different women, all those different energies all are at the same time. All right, let me make sure she's safe. I want to move too close to her. Let me make sure I'm not walking, I'm walking far enough. Let me jingle my keys so she don't just look up and she's startled that she didn't expect a man in particular, a male, to be right up on her or right behind her. There's all these sensibilities that we have that are all connected to you, and I think a lot of women feel like they're disconnected from us, but they're operating in a way that is disconnected from us. And sometimes we are operating in ways that are disconnected from them, but we always got to remember, no, we are connected, whether we know each other or not, whether we're related or not, whether we're in the same home or household or family or not. And this energy is a constant transfer and gauging of temperatures and temperaments. And that understanding, I think, can allow people not only to be more self-aware, but also, I think, to be more compassionate toward other people just the same.
I'm so glad you mentioned compassion. Compassion is like the salve, like the cocoa butter that helps us do this, when it's hard, when it's cold, when you don't want to. But just having compassion for your fellow brother, for your fellow sister. We are the center of everything that needs to happen. That could feel like a lot. That could feel overwhelming. But in order to begin to do this work, it does help to have compassion for our fellow sister, our fellow brother, and to do this healing work in community.
And that's where the community comes in. Yeah.
And that's what the Goddess Technology Retreat Bali is about. That's what Lamman has been doing with Bro Just Heal. That is
Just
what we're
Heal
up
Bro.
to. Just Heal Bro.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to correct you the first time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is what we're up to, is getting ourselves together so that we can do this sacred work of healing, because we know so many things are tethered to where we are. Okay, so where we are. So thank you for that. So I wanted to chat about emotional hurts. He and I were having a lot of offline conversations today, and we were chatting in the car today about how a lot of times, we all have our own stuff. Men have their stuff, women have our stuff, our kids have our stuff, the pets have their things going on. Everybody has their stuff happening, okay?
It's true, though.
But if you're just functioning like you're the only one experiencing things, but you're not at all in harmony or aware or of, because what we just said, like without the self-care, without the self-awareness, then you're kind of just oblivious to what's happening.
The only one here is me.
Ashe. Yeah. So now we have a bunch of hurt women, a bunch of hurt men, maybe hurt pets, maybe hurt babies, because hurt people are creating hurt people. And we are seeking to heal ourselves first and then heal those who want to heal with us. So as we look at the things that trigger us, because we all have triggers, and what I have come to know is that the trigger for me and for us all is a clue to what I still have unhealed and what I need to work on. So I want to chat with you about healing emotional hurts. Like, how do you work with the brothers on that? Because again, as we're healing our community and we're shifting things, we're dealing with a lot of stuff intergenerationally, things that happen with our parents that we definitely say, okay, we're not going to do it that way. We're not, and grandmama and them was like that because it is, so we're not going to do it that way.
But that's a pain response. That's a trauma response.
It is.
Right? Because of the way something happened, we've made this decision. We've drawn a line in the sand. What I'm not going to do, right? Like, look, what we not going to do, right? Right. And so, it's those kind of decisions, right? Or again, as Don Miguel Ruiz would say, these agreements that we make, these things that we have decided are going to happen a certain way, or that they exist in a particular way, but it's because we've put them in that kind of space, in that kind of box, or in that realm of interpretation. And most of the time, what's actually best for us, or even best for the way we're raising our children, is not always much different than we were raised. It's just filtering the best of what we feel. And again, we've got to take responsibility for what we feel is the best. And that's all our parents were typically doing. I feel that the best thing for me to do, or sometimes what I'm capable of doing in this moment, is this. And you've got to accept your own limitations. At the same time, understand that some of your behaviors are trauma responses to what you went through as the child. But now you've got to remember you're the parent, not the child in this equation. But you've still got to remember you're still the child in this equation. And until you do this work is still going to be impacted by what's over here. So if you can stop and sit down and say, when my kid's going through this or doing this, why do I want to respond in this particular way? Oh, that's because, or that's connected to, you don't always know exactly what it is or exactly why, but if you can at least have an understanding, right? Or start to inquire within yourself, what might that be connected to? Is that connected to this? Oh,
waking up in the moment.
I might need to talk to my father about that. I might need to talk to my sister about that. I mean, I realize how I am about certain things is connected to having been bullied as a kid. So even if somebody's half my size, depending on what they're saying to me, or depending on, and not even so much with me, the way other people treat other people, I'm sensitive to watching somebody else get bullied way more than I would ever be about whether I feel that somebody's trying to bully me.
But you know what that felt like.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I realize I'll have this other response, which is like, are you trying to bully me?
Right.
Right? And then what is that? Part of that is also being in this body, which is like, you can't bully me.
Right.
I'll kick your ass.
In this
right?
Body.
But then the other part of that is, regardless of what you physically look like, you can still just that quickly feel like that 4 foot tall little boy, not a 6 foot 4 inch tall grown man. And you're like, oh, wow, like I can feel myself being diminished back to that. And you're like, oh, so the reason why I'm functioning in this conversation this way is really still connected to this thing that I thought I was over, but I'm really not. And it's part of what makes you who you are. And you don't have to always let it all die per se, but you've at least got to understand and take responsibility for where it comes from and what it's connected to.
So what you're talking about is healing the inner child. And when we are just working so much and doing so many things, oftentimes we're not even listening to our bodies, much less our inner child. But what we're talking about through Goddess Technology, it is exactly that work. It is taking the time to unpack your triggers and realize, oh, that came from when I was bullied in junior high school, and healing that. There are concentric levels to the healing. So say you heal at this level, but you still see something left, to be done. And
it's ripples, and you move through all those different rings and realms and phases, but it all ends up coming back to at the core, the nucleus is you. Yeah.
That's the point, is you. So healing these stories, changing the stories, transmuting the pain into power is actually what the technology is. Like when people say, well, what's the technology? Is it the phone? Is it the... No. It's none of that. It's
all this stuff is built on us. It's all... This is the most phenomenal technology there is. Everything that has been mechanized is all based on the human anatomy and physiology. It's all built on this particular template, and then it's just found a different way for these processes to
emulate, imitate.
You think that a computer even works faster than you do, and most of the time it still doesn't. The power of the human mind, again, we're talking about emotion and impulse and trigger and instinct and all these kind of words. The speed that your neurological system functions on is faster than any computer, any system out there is faster than all of it. It'll never compare. It's like it's the speed of light and then some.
What I wanted to say, based upon what you just said there, is with Goddess Technology and with women healing is understanding the things that we do unconsciously that work against us, and then consciously taking a position to shift to heal those things so that we get the results that we say we want. Because when you're functioning in a way and you keep having things happen that you don't want, or it's not the result, then it's time to take a pause. It's time to take a chill and look at self. It's not everybody else is toxic, everybody else is this. It's like, no, it's something coming up in my program that I need to address so that I can be my better self.
Most of the time we're in our own way.
All the time.
Most of the time we're in our own way. And that's not to take any responsibility away from anybody.
No.
But this is also part of what the power of forgiveness is about as well. It's not letting somebody off the hook, but is liberating yourself from whatever they contribute to the equation and just being accountable for your own stuff.
Your part.
The only control I have is not over someone else. You will never control me. You can't control somebody else.
It's not possible.
It doesn't work.
Not even
all right?
children.
No. Exactly. And there's power in that powerlessness. And part of that is letting go.
And knowing what to focus on.
And the other part of it is saying, hey, what I actually have the most control over is me. What I do, how I respond, how I think, how I feel, how I interpret, how I speak, all of that, how I take care of myself, how I'm accountable for what I say and how I feel and how I think and all that, and not just always pointing the finger at the stimulus, but never taking responsibility as the agent of response and of receipt, and oftentimes even I see people who feel like something, remember as a kid, he started it, but what we can't see is, well, actually you did, but you were unaware. And this is an acting exercise as well. What you're often unaware is something that you did that created a response in them. So by the time you're paying attention
it's only after
to what happened, it's by the time something has escalated even to this teeny weeny little amount that you have now taken it as something that is coming at you or toward you, or whether you see it as an attack or whatever. And now you're like, oh, you just did that to me. That came out of nowhere. That was unfair.
It's never
But what you are often unaware of is what you may, not always, what you may have also done, even in the smallest, minute, nano percentage, is what did I do, or how was I an agent of, that energy coming in my direction?
So
not that there aren't just crazy people out there. Some people are just crazy.
But people
they're
justify their behavior.
They're nasty. They're violent. They're mean. They're they're predators. They're wolves. They're all of that, and that's very true. And not to say that the bad things that happen to you are your fault. It's not that, but it is being aware of the times where you did and may have had some degree of contribution to what this process of dysfunction is, and you always think it's the other person, and you're not really paying attention to how much you're contributing to that dysfunction.
That's what halts the growth.
Yeah.
When you cannot see.
Because you'll always stay right there.
Right. Because if you are always blaming, then you are never taking responsibility for what you can do.
Yeah.
So universal law, one of the universal laws, and these are laws that are true no matter what, is cause and effect.
Right.
Like everything has a cause, everything has an effect. We may not know what the cause was, but we can reverse engineer it looking from what the effect was. So what happened to get this effect and work it backwards? So these are the kinds of things that we start to do. When we really get self-aware and we really start to be a self-scientist, to work on our relationships, working on our health, working on our wealth, working on the things to make our lives more impactful this time around. So I wanted to chat with you about relationships, because we kind of went around that a little bit and we're talking about it now. I hear many women say things to me now like, I'm just giving up. It's just hard out there. I can't do it no more. I'm coming off the market. They're like, what? Like you just out of the thing, sis? Oh, she kind of saying something. Exactly. Reverse engineer. Yes, Con. Yes. It's extremely. And that's my boo right there. So these are the kinds of things that we do. You need practice. It's good to practice before you actually end upset, so you can become aware in the moment and say, oh, okay, now I have some skills in my bag to shift this and do it differently. So from your perspective, Lamman, divine masculine, because remember that's who he represents today, is how can we do this better in relationships? So now I'm talking about love relationships. For those sisters who are saying they out, they ain't doing it no more. And they want to, because why would you even have to say that? Right. You know what I mean? I feel for them, because it's 8 billion people in the world. It's more than enough people for all of us here, if you want, okay? And you do. So talk to me about reverse engineering, how to handle hurt feelings in a relationship. Like how have you been successful? Maybe how you haven't been successful, how you learn from that, what you do now, what you recommend to those brothers that you work with as they're dealing with these sisters that we're working with. How can we bring them together? Because we healing men over here, we healing sisters over here. Now we need to get them together.
Yeah.
Talk about
I know. So, wow, there's a lot of different places to start. One is, I do believe the language that we use and the attitudes, again, the things that we agree to are one of the first places that we go wrong. So for anybody to say, I ain't doing that no more, I'm done, like those terms and those, a lot of times, again, that's just impulsive behavior, but you really still have to be mindful of what kind of energy you put out there and what you tell yourself. When in actuality, all right, you know what? Let me slow down for a second. All right, you know what? Let me take a step back for a second. All right, you know what? Let me think about that for a second. Like, to me, that's the type of language that, I think is much healthier, as opposed to what I'm not going to do. I'm out, you tapping out. Basically, you're telling yourself that you've given up.
Yeah.
And when you say that, what you're saying is, again, passively, there's nobody out there for me. I'm not worthy of anybody else. Nobody's worthy of me. It's just, they're
sad.
just,
I feel sad.
And it's a very negative, it's hurtful, it's condescending, and it's self-sabotaging, really. When in actuality, what you might need to really do is just say, you know what? Let me take a break for a second. Let me just take a step back. Yeah, let me focus on me. Let me go to therapy. Let me dance more. Let me see the world. Let me go to the ocean's edge. Let me pray more. I need to meditate. Let me be mindful of what I'm putting in my body. Let me adjust some of the things that I'm eating. Let me reevaluate whether I'm happy actually with my job or with certain elements of my life that are actually creating stress, disillusionment, lack of fulfillment. There are a lot of opportunities really to just say, again, wait, we use pause like a joke now, but it really is a moment of pause so that there is reflection, so that there is self-science, so that there is self-awareness, so that there are questions and conversations that you're able to say, not so much, is it me or what was my fault, but just, okay, what's going on? What's going on within me? And what do I feel like is going on around me? And sometimes literally, again, back to one of the things you said, what has worked for me is literally just to say, everybody get your hands off me. And I'm keeping my hands off everybody.
So
you're
just taking a
pause.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're not saying I'm out, I quit. You just saying
letting my body
taking
breathe.
a knee.
And then sometimes the crazy thing is, here come all these women. Right when I'm trying to like chill, I'm like, yo, I say, but then one of the things that I found interesting about that is like, this is what discipline looks like. Right?
Yeah.
And even though there's opportunity, even though these are wonderful women, these are, maybe this is the universe has given me what I asked for. Sometimes it's still like, yeah, but I'm sorry, not right now. Right? But then guess what else has showed up? Many of them women have stuck around. They've now become friends. They were never mates. Some of them disappeared. And a couple of them, maybe we said, hey, let's see where this goes. They might not have ended up, being the wife, but they were still meaningful relationships.
Right, significant.
They were still healthy partners. They weren't a waste of my time. Right. So, but I had to be very disciplined about not just, again, putting my, stake in the ground, my spirit in the ground. Right. Like, no, I said I'm not gonna. So sometimes people think discipline looks like that. Instead, it's like, well, you know what? I said I was gonna chill and take a step back. So what does that really mean? And what does that look like? That doesn't mean I need to tell everybody to get the hell out my face. It just means, like I said, we can kick it, but nope, I'm not going there. We're not going there. We can hang out. We can be friends. Let's do. And what I ended up being able to do was develop other relationship skills that were not physical or sexual ones. What I was able to do was develop friendships that were more meaningful than any romantic relationship. Yes. So what you end up doing by not deflecting and making everybody else pay for this pain that happened to you, right? And again, all you do is take that frustration and everything that's pent up, and then you're mad to all these other people that ain't got even nothing to do with this, and those people ain't even relationship folks. They're like people going off on each other, at the gas station. They're going off while you driving. Everything. Oh my God, everybody's so uptight. So there's just a way that I've learned to just say, everybody.
Exhale.
You know what I mean? Almost like everybody. Hey, everybody. Not just me.
Exhale.
Everybody relax.
Exhale.
And for me, it's just like slowing down, right? Taking a second, like I said, pause, listen, tap in, set some boundaries. Don't put yourself in a box or in a cage, but set some boundaries. Have the discipline to mind those boundaries, right? And make a commitment to yourself to keep those boundaries in place. At the same time, know that life is also life, and boundaries can have some fluidity to them and can change and adjust and adapt and take certain form. But you got to be careful. Like, am I softening this boundary because or do I need to make sure I say, okay, I feel what's happening. Let me be disciplined and keep my hands on my lap. Yeah.
My teachers taught me that boundaries are for you. Sometimes popular culture makes you think that boundaries for everybody else. Right. You got to go out and teach the whole world.
Right. Not to cross this line. Right.
boundary is for you.
That's right.
So you have some guidance on how you proceed
right.
and how you govern yourself in relationship and how you govern yourself in the world. But these are the things we need to take time to be still to figure out, like, what should be a boundary and what should be this and what should be that. So again, as we talk about the Goddess Technology Retreat, this is sacred time for us sisters to come into these things and have time to dial in on some of these things, dial in on where we are, where we want to be, and the steps to get there. Like we talked about reverse engineering.
And I want to hop back in there real quick. This is also something when it comes to men that's been very challenging for a lot of men to do. And that is in particular, to say no, for lack of a better word, right? To tell a woman, no, thank you. I appreciate you, but no, thank you.
Like when it comes to sex or just in general?
That too. Also just in general. No, you know, thanks for the gift, but no, thank you. Or, you know, oh yeah, you know, can you actually, it's prioritizing our sexual, emotional, spiritual, you know, and mental space and work and boundary.
So when you're paying attention, what's for you?
It's creating that for yourself. A lot of men don't think we're worthy of doing that.
Wow.
That our bodies are as sacred as yours.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
We don't know how to do that because and most women don't think we're capable. So as long as she comes along and brings any sensuality to her presence,
just jump.
There's no way a man's gonna say no.
Okay.
And if so, something's wrong with him.
Okay.
Right. So we have a lot of stuff to work through that gets in our way of saying there's nothing wrong with me.
It's just not for me.
I still love women.
Yeah.
I would still love to be with somebody. But right now, I'm good. And sometimes that's actually what some men are doing when they're like, hey, I ain't trying to be in a relationship right now. I'm just chilling. Like, and a lot of women don't always understand that, hey, give that man his space. And when we say space, a lot of times that's just interpreted as just physical space. But what it also means is like, hey, mentally, emotionally, all of that right now, I'm not really, you know, I'm not really in that space to create space for what you're talking about. What I'm doing is I'm just in here right now. Yeah. And a lot, you know, that too.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage men, and for the men that you all know and that are in your lives, if there aren't men in this conversation right now, allow that, encourage that, embrace that, support that, and without taking that personally and without violating that space and that that thing that a man might be trying to do that he might not even totally understand. And a lot of times women don't understand it, but it's difficult for a lot of men to actually do that for themselves.
I feel
we
like we
don't help ourselves.
Like some people would say, oh, he must be gay if he didn't do this, or he must be this, or he must be that. That's a form of bullying.
And then your friends might do that, or you're in your own head. Oh, why don't I want to do that? Something wrong with me? Am I like, no, you
can take a breather.
Yes. Let your, even like sometimes, like literally, you need to let your body recover. Like even being an athlete, there are times where like you have your season, you have your off season. There are times where no, stop going in the weight room, stop running, stop training. The season is over. You need to take a certain amount of time to just be still. Let your body recover. Tap back into other things. Tap back into your family. You haven't been present for. But a lot of it is just literally on a cellular level. Let your body heal and recover. And then, all right, season's coming back up. All right, whatever the sport is, there's certain things I'm gonna start working my way back into the discipline that it's gonna take for me to perform, you know, physically, sexually, whatever the thing is, emotionally, at whatever levels. But even throughout that, and even though you don't get an off season in marriage, you don't get an off season in parenting, you don't get an off season in but yes, you do. And that's what this retreat is. That's what Sundays are, maybe. That's what 2 days a week you say, hey, don't nobody talk to me, or I'm doing this, or hey, baby, when's our date night? Or all right, yeah, we might have our date night, but there's at least 1 day a week. It's just like,
it's for me.
I'm over here. Like like, I don't know if you remember Robin Harris, but he was like, I'm going to the moon, I'll be back. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is. So there is a way for us to create in our lives and in our lifestyle and in our crazy hectic schedules. There was a way to create space. And you have got to have that same discipline, like I said, as a professional athlete would. You got to have that same discipline as someone else who literally, like, it shouldn't be hospital and you're bedridden or you're stuck and you can't go nowhere. But in a much more loving, healthy, and safer way, you need to say, nope, I'm chilling, I'm tapping out, I'm taking a break, and give yourself the opportunity to come back refreshed, renewed. That can be a daily process, actually, right? It's also, it could be a weekly process, a monthly process, a seasonal process.
It needs to be
every
built in.
year you come to something like this process. Every other year, like there's things that I know, even as a creative, right? There are like arts festivals, theater festivals. There are certain things that, like, I know every other year I'm gonna be back in, and it's a commitment that I'm also making to continue to be in that energy, in that environment, in that space of renewal, reconnection, creativity, whatever it is. And even if it's only every other year, I know that one, I have something to look forward to. Two, it's a place that I thrive. It's a place that I'm going to learn. It's a place where I get to serve and where I'm going to be immersed in this other energy that's going to restore and renew me so I can, you know, come back. And then if you now have that thing that's every other year, then you got something else that maybe happens every other year in between. Then there's something else that you have maybe at the same interval, but it's, so basically what ends up happening is every 3 months, you have something. Right? You know what I mean? It might be 4 different things that only happen every other year. But it's like,
you're building it.
Based on what those actual intervals are, you end up having something that occurs at a regular rate of, you know, that has a rate of return, right? Business concept.
Just sanity.
Exactly. At some point, that's what it is.
You actually were
and then it's easy. Then you're like,
easier.
oh, like this is now just part of my way and part of my lifestyle. Like we just said, quick, you know, and this is a little bit of a bizarre tangent maybe, but like it was just December 1st, World AIDS Day, right? So a big part of, again, when I'm dealing with public health, and as I started to lean more into you know, again, sexual and reproductive health, even for men and boys, as I mentioned, not just women and girls. And I started learning more about STDs and HIV and AIDS, and was doing this advocacy again since we were teenagers, right? Through the theater and using the arts to do these things to heal our communities and to speak to young people and prevent teenage pregnancy and all these other things that were going on that we were using these art forms for. I realized that, oh, it's one of those things that's like every June and every December is testing day. And that's just the testing thing. But there's so much other work that's happening throughout the country and throughout the world connected to reproductive health, connected to AIDS education, that even if not every week, every other, like you don't have to be, you know, like completely just bombarded by this, but at a regular interval, it's already set up in the world that typically June 27th, you know, it is National HIV Testing Day, and December 1st is World AIDS Day. So it's kind of like, if I don't go at any other time, every 6 months, I'm going to the hospital. I mean, I'm going to the clinic voluntarily. And if we take advantage of sometimes infrastructure that's already there, we'll already know where we stand, and we have a barometer of health for ourselves without us going years without having any clue what's going on, right? There's already something built in that says tap back in, you know, take a step back before you start to date anybody else, you know.
Take a minute.
That's right. Go back and make sure your credentials, you all clear, you know what I mean? Yeah, right. And so
shift us right here in this moment.
Yeah.
I want to talk about thoughts on magical women. What comes to mind when you think of a magical woman? How do you see their influence, personal and in your professional spheres? Just tell me what you think. And if you have any stories, I know you got stories. Y'all see, my brother can talk.
Okay? Yeah. So magical women. And I use a word like magical, you know. And I think women feel like they got to come in and blow you away to be magical.
Just be.
And that's not it. I'm telling you, the most magical thing about a woman is a woman that can just be. It's a woman who's at peace with herself. She's in acceptance of herself, you know, and even if it's not always love of yourself yet, right? It's an acceptance of yourself. That's not settling, but it's like, yes, I accept who I am. I understand that who I am is great and is beautiful. I'm still working on really being in love with me.
Yeah.
But I know I'm worthy of it. I'm worthy of my own love. I'm worthy of the love of others. And in the process, I'm just going to be exactly who I am. I'm not going to worry about the judgment and how other people grade me. I feel like some women are more interested in how other women respond to them. They don't care about how men respond. They want another woman's approval as opposed to even trying to be attractive for us. You know what I mean? So what's really magical about a woman who really just walks in her own gift, you know, and you know, I think it's common, you know, that says, you know, like, you know, I'm even if you're blinding, I can handle the glare. You know what I mean? And what really illuminates through a magical woman is just that it's really it's your light, and when you're in the presence of it, and thankfully I see it all the time, and I'm around it all the time. It's often just something that a woman has to allow herself to be, because it's in every single one of you. That's why you all are so. That's why you're so magical.
Right.
That's why
it goes back to creation. What we started with.
Listen, it revolves around you. Y'all don't even really understand what you are and what you have. And again, this is not a sexual thing. This is, again, it's just a God energy. It's a light. It might come through a woman's eyes. It might come through her smile. No matter what your teeth look like, it's just in her energy, her presence, her personality. It's not even often what you see in relationship or in response to you. I'm telling you, I see all the time. I'm watching how other people treat other people. I see how people walk, and I can tell whether it's an act, whether that's even how they walk, or that they're walking that way on purpose. If you told them, hey, relax, just walk like you walk, you know, their walk would be completely different. You know what I'm saying? So there's this kind of
you don't have
performance
to do it's not
that a lot of people get stuck in. And that's when you can get away from that, that's where that magical woman shows up. And
that's really something coming from a performer and our performance background.
It's like the last thing I'm looking for is a performer.
We've been groomed to perform.
Yeah.
In our regular life, we want authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, I have someone say to me, are you switching when you walk? I'm like, no, I'm just walking. It's not a switch. Right. This is just when you have these booties in this thigh, this is what it looked like. It's not a switch. It's just how we walk.
I mean, I get teased about how it's like, you so slow. I'm like, yeah.
I take my time.
I'm like, and I also realize that's my zen. You know, that's my peace. That's my calm. That's me clocking everything around me. That's me listening. That's also me being present. But it's also me not being in a rush, not being frantic, not being out of control, not be, you know what I mean? And I feel like there's a lot. So, and again, I just learned, like, yeah, sometimes I get criticized for it. Sometimes I'm just playfully teased about it. But thank God it really doesn't cost me, you know, any significant consequence. But it's a self-acceptance to that even when I'm being criticized or teased, or somebody even complains about it, there's an acceptance that I have that's like, hey,
you love you and you understand.
That's me. That's how I am, you know. And then there's countless moments where people are like, man, I love your energy. Man, thank God for your calm, for your peace, for your diplomacy, for your this, for your protection, for your vision, for your, you know, understanding of all of the things that are going on.
That is a masculine.
It's just something, yeah. And it's just kind of how I'm made, you know. And again, it's one of those things that I've just learned to say, all right, that's part of my magic.
And you know what? I called your Bagua, and I know you're like, what's Bagua? Bagua is a way of self-sciencing yourself and understanding yourself. So I would say it's called Bagua astrology. And so for you, you are a negotiator mind. And it's based off of
Yeah, I'm about to say, what's the
birthday.
criteria?
It's based
Okay.
off your birthday.
All right. So not necessarily a numerology.
It is.
But there is, yeah. Okay, there is some.
It's definitely
Okay.
numerology.
Okay.
Okay, so it's based off your birthday, and it's based off of the time and where you were born. Okay, so you were born. Remember, I asked you today where you were born, and you told me, I was getting clarity.
Okay.
So anyway, negotiator. That's the talking. Okay, negotiators are great communicators and look to solve and address most challenges in their lives using strong communication skills. Negotiators can utilize communication to achieve most all of their standard needs in life, and they tend to leverage it fully to that end. That's how you think. Okay, you approach the world from a way of communication. I definitely see you as that. Now, spirit is how you feel. Okay, and you're a visionary spirit. I'm a visionary mind, so we flip flop on that. But visionaries, and I will say this: negotiator is masculine energy. Okay. And we have all the energies. All of us have all the energies. But just knowing where your proclivity is, where your dominance is. So how you think is chiefly negotiator. What that how you feel is visionary.
Distribution of right of it all is throughout all these different properties. Right.
So visionary is feminine. Well, she's actually androgynous, but she's leaning feminine, and this is how you feel. Visionaries oftentimes feel like being in an adventurous, creative, or generally inspired mood. They revel in their own concepts and strategic genius. So visionaries are the ones who are coming up with all of the strategies of doing stuff. You just described that. You're like, I'm looking out, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. I know, you know what I mean? Like how you look at things and how you feel about it. It's like, I'm okay with that. This is what I'm doing. You don't necessarily have to do it all, but you're putting things in place or delegating for those things to get done. Visionary sees. And that's what you just said, you saw. Now, your body, we also look at how you move through the world. You have a monk body. Monks, I'll tell you what that is. Monks have a medium metabolism and tend to burn a lot of energy and calories through their balanced combination of physical and mental activity. Their level of physical sensitivity tends to be on the medium side. So monk and visionary are actually opposite. Monk is androgynous, but leaning masculine. Okay, so we can talk more about this. And this is one of the things we do in Goddess Technology is understanding yourself, understanding your energy so that you understand, okay, this is just kind of how I'm set up. And that doesn't mean you can't branch out into other things and expand, but you
understanding your baseline.
Exactly. Know your baseline, you can move differently off of that, and you can move differently with the people that you vibe with based upon, it's like, okay, I know that person, I can be triggered a lot, but you can also be chill because you already prepared. That's just their baseline. That's your baseline. So it's also a way of understanding who you are better. So that's Lamman's Bagua, little tip.
A little bit of that. Yeah, we have to talk more about that.
We will definitely talk more about that. So I want to tell you this, and I hadn't told Lamman this. My first 2 years, this podcast was called the Liberated Pussy Podcast. Okay. Now I know that name was slightly triggering. It was triggering to me. Okay. I couldn't even say it was hard.
But that was the value of it. Huh? Right.
That was the point, to actually say it.
Right.
And own all of it. Right. Because sometimes
in a liberated way. That's right. Liberate yourself from any consequence or judgment of it.
The sexuality, the sensuality, all of it. So I want to ask you, because we even had a thing about, you down with LPP? Yeah, you know me. we had to have
that's right. That's right. Of course.
So what I want to ask you about the
have fun with it.
Yeah, that part too. The concept of liberated pussy is also discussed in terms of empowerment and freedom. What are your thoughts on this? How do you feel about a woman being free in her sexuality? Oftentimes in our quote unquote monogamous culture, the freedom is more for the men and the woman is more seen as a possession. And so someone who, like myself, who's been married a long, long time, it's an interesting concept for me to unpack over these last 2 years. So I'm asking you, as a man, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what comes, like, were you triggered when I said that? Like, how do you feel about that?
No, I mean, I've said the same thing in many different ways. And again, without fear of retribution, I was having a conversation with a female friend and I was like, you need to embrace your inner hoe, and my point, and really in saying that to her was that there was such repression, there was such these limitations on herself by herself. And again, how many other things that's connected to, that's part of what, she's working to unpack. But a lot of it was not only the judgment of others, it was the judgment of herself.
And that's where it's
exactly. And that's why I was like, yo, you need so then it was kind of like, look, the challenge always is, and it depends on what man you talk to, but some men, again, we can all be very sensitive about how many men a woman's been with and but most men, you would love a woman who knows what she's doing.
Hello.
And if she know what she's doing, you ain't the first one she's done it with or to, right? So there's this delicate balance between what a man defines as sexy is what he defines as sexy. Ain't got nothing to do with you. What you define as sexy, what you feel in your body or how you feel about your own body. What's sexiest to me is, again, back to what I said, a woman who embraces what her body is and she ain't got all this stuff in the way. There's nothing worse than physically, sexually being with a woman who's in her own way. You can't get any connection. You can't have any fun. You can't really be there with her if she can't be there with you, because she got all this other crap in the way of her really just allowing herself to let go and be present, be yourself, be free, be whatever comes after that. And these fears about what comes next. Now, not to say that you shouldn't have any respect for your body. You shouldn't, again, have boundaries for yourself. Whatever you want to do or don't want to do, that's absolutely up to you.
Right.
But there's a difference between a woman who says, I'm free at the same time. Oh yeah, nah, I'm not trying to do, I'm not trying to do that though. Right. That whatever that is, of course. But there is I'm telling you, it is a completely different experience with a woman, not just the sexual encounter, but friendship, relationship with a woman who has worked on and invested in her own liberation. That sexual liberation in particular, that woman walks different, she talked different, she switched different, she, eats different, she drink different. It's just a completely different way of how she moves and literally sometimes floats through the world.
Y'all heard him say it about 2 or 3 times that women doing their work are what men want. Healed men want that.
Ain't nothing like it.
And so for us, we want the healed men too. So let's do our work.
Yeah.
Let's do our work.
Yeah. It's like that liberation is for you. But what it ends up being, is an asset
to
everybody else, just the same. And then you give other people permission to do, to do the same. But naturally, there are all kind of gender dynamics we got to worry about, whatever, societal judgments and, all these, things. But I really can appreciate where women are now. Some women are going so far over here where you're like, yo, you kind of wow. And I only mean that really in a public setting. I believe when you're with and around other people, or again, when it's music, when it's things like that, when even how you dress outside of your house, you gotta respect the fact that you're in public. This is shared space, right? You want to be like, I ain't gonna mention any of these artists' names, but we know who some of them are. Some of the stuff they talking is just, it's like not for public
consumption.
Yeah. That's what you want to do in your house, in your bed.
Go nuts.
Do your, pun intended, do your thing, right? But so there are the ways where I believe these boundaries do need to be, and people need to have a little bit more of a conscience on how and where we do these things. But overall, I can at least appreciate the fact that some women are saying, you know what, to hell with these walls that y'all, have put around us. To hell with these labels. I'm done with that. I'm doing things however I want to do them. in whatever way I want to do them, you know, without any concern for what anybody else has to say.
Thank you.
I can respect that and appreciate that and support that.
Mhm.
But sometimes even in support of that, I might still be that other voice and energy that says, I love what you're doing, but like, just bring it back. Just tone it down just a little bit, you know, like, because sometimes you just,
So long.
well, not only that, sometimes, exactly.
Right.
That's my point. Exactly my point. Exactly my point. It's often just an overcompensation, you
It's
know, of this.
It's
Yeah,
like a market correction.
exactly.
So I want to take time because we're getting to the end of
Market correction.
this hour and just see what folks were saying in the chat. I see Joy says, I can see the high frequency soul tribe vibe. Yes, baby, that's what we're working with. Yes, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Okay. And Shakana said exactly on point. I don't know what that was about. Melissa says my response was has always been bruised ain't broken. Move through it. Ashe. And then Shakana says I was out because no one was showing up. Okay. Yet in my physical healing meditation, I availed myself to love. So I called it in. Yes. And so my sister got married almost 2 years ago. Yeah. So love came in and I showed up, showed in acceptance. Love came down and now I'm married for the first time to my forever partner. Shakana, that's so beautiful. And it was beautiful to witness that with you. Marcy says, let's see. And you guys can come off mute if you want to talk to Lamman. I'm just reading what's in the chat, see if there was any questions here. Let's come off mute and let's just have a chit chat with him before we go. Yes, she says, walking in your gift, inner light, authenticity. Marcy says, when I walk in the room, the atmosphere changed due to my magic. I know that's right.
Straight up. I know it. I know it. I know it. I know you when I see you.
Hi, I wanted to just say thank you guys so much for having a healthy conversation. There's so much on Instagram that I see where people are so angry and hurt, and the conversation, the tone is so aggressive, and so this is really helpful for me because I am in the process of a breakup. And I could feel myself wanting to armor for the first time in my life. And I kept saying, no, I'm going to lean into love. I'm going to lean into no separation. I'm going to lean into seeing my part. So to you guys' point, when you guys were talking about finding, personal accountability through my reading that I got with Moon Mama, it just really helped to take the sting out of the breakup, because it's really my inner reality is showing up in my outer reality. It's just plain and simple. The masculine was the mirror to my subconscious mind, and I was so jacked up. I was one of those women. I was like, yes, so he did this and he did that, and I'm so perfect. I just thought I just had it going on so. I mean, it was the rudest wake up call, and he was just very genteel about it. But it was me. It was really me, like it's probably like 95% me. And so seeing the display of myself, and I'm like, oh no, girl, you need to be single for a while. You need a while and just really love on yourself, because you were just sourcing all of it. I'm like, I wanted the attention, the validation, and was just so angry that I wasn't, he wasn't meeting me there. He wasn't being daddy. You know what I'm saying? He's still a nice man, but the point is that I had to go back. I had to circle back to let's get to the root of this. It's daddy. We have a lot of issues. We women have a lot of issues tied to not getting that love and validation.
Yeah.
So we need to be single.
We need to heal, like you said, and then come back out. It's like double dutch before you jump in. Like you take a minute to see how those ropes are going before you get all tangled up.
Oh my God.
Come out and then get ready to jump in. So healing.
Like that's I said, sometimes it's good to be like, yeah, not now. I'll be back.
Exactly.
Don't ropes will still be turning. Yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Thank you, Joy. Joy, we welcome you.
And good luck. Good luck with the breakups.
Thank you.
Yes, it sounds corny, but just trust the process and trust yourself.
Break up, right?
Yeah, just it's a phase. You can't skip steps. So just
Yes.
Stay in it. Yep. Walk it out, move through it. And before you know it, you'll be looking at it in your rearview mirror, and the clouds will move, and you'll be able to see in front of you a little clearer. You might just feel a little stuck right now. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But
new divine partner.
Yeah.
This is let me just say this.
Whenever they show up.
It's the first one where, and I'm talking to the ladies too, because a lot of times, we'll be looking at the man about what the man did. But I have this thing, like, if we don't enjoy our own company, why you want him to enjoy it? If the clothes come off and you don't feel good about what you're looking at, then why do you want him to be like loving you?
Looking at the camera.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we need to be working out. We need to really be in love with ourselves passionately before we even get in a relationship.
I'm telling you.
Period.
That is so profound. It really is. It's so true.
You care and you don't care, because you do love yourself so much. Like, I care, come on. But if you don't come, okay, cool. I'm cool.
Right.
Yes. I mean, you care, but you're not wrapped up in it. So you already all right.
Yes.
That's why, back to where we started, whatever comes along should be the and. It shouldn't be a requirement, a dependency. You shouldn't be living at a deficiency. Right. You know what I mean? You gotta literally find a way. Like, people say, oh, you complete me and all that. No, because guess what? 1 times 1 is still 1, right? So we're looking at 50 and 50 and 2 people half formed making 1, when in actuality, if we've got somebody working to be their whole self and this person working to be their whole self, now we're working in multiplication, not low level addition. That's right. It's a whole nother level of what we're talking about, vibration. Now we're talking about exponential vibration and growth, right? So being able to be by yourself doesn't mean you have to stay there without partnership with anybody ever, but it does mean whenever you are there, you're okay. Well, that's what's healthy. That self-reliance and self-sufficiency doesn't mean that has to equate in loneliness, or desperation. Yeah.
But definitely love of self. Now, Melissa has a question. Hey, Melissa, what's up, girl? Hey, girl.
Question. Well, actually, I do have a question. When are we doing this again? Because we don't have enough of these conversations.
Okay. And we have to work something
out.
Y'all love it.
So many things. You all know it. You go to a post and it's like, or gentlemen, answer this question, or men only, and women just hop in. So we don't get to hear that voice. We don't get to hear.
I hear that a lot.
I hate it. I don't want to lean on my sisters like that, but please, we can learn so much just by listening to what the responses are. But on a related note to the relationship side of things, one, I want to give honor to my mom, who just poured into me. And I didn't value that until these conversations started happening for me, where I trust that I'm enough all the time. I walk with I'm enough all the time. So when someone doesn't meet my expectation, I know that I have to take care of me. My joy is my responsibility. You are my addition too. So I've learned not to give from an empty tank, a half full tank. I'm gonna give from my overflow all the time. That way, if I am hurt, I'm not down and beaten and downtrodden about it. I'm going to go through and realize what my lesson was and my blessing was. Because some people that are exiting for a big old reason. And once you find out what their reason is, you can trust that. I let God move my pieces around. When people disappear, I'm like, okay, I'm to the point now I don't even need to know why. I know that they were removed for a reason. They aren't for me. But I've been married for 22 years. I remember asking for my husband. I remember being very, very specific. Now, if I could go back and rewrite that list.
22 years.
I would go fix a few things, but I was very specific in what I was looking for, and I didn't compromise on that. I compromised on the relationship things, but not what I wanted. Not what I wanted at all. Moving 2 worlds together, you got to make room for some stuff. But mostly, my mom said, make sure it fits me first.
Yeah.
And then everything else falls into place. So That's all I wanted to offer. And for the beautiful goddess that is going through that breakup, find a lesson and a blessing. Don't put the armor on. It's not necessary. Love is a risk. It's a gamble, but it's worth it when you find
Yeah.
that right one.
We can't tell the future. Hey, this is trial and error, y'all. Ain't no other way to do it. When you're
Nope.
alive, there ain't no other way. It's trial and error. You know, and again, we talking about technology. What all this technology? This technology don't know nothing. That's why it's always changing, right? Again, as a math and science guy, one of the things I also explain to people, math and science is not finite. Like if you really understood what scientists really do, you really understand what technology and innovation and what mathematicians really do, nothing is finite. There is always a margin of error. There's always a plus or minus. There's even pi is 3.14. Right?
33333.
You know what I'm
It keeps
saying?
going.
Like it's not finite. So you always got to just, just knowing that
That's where the grace comes in.
is
Mhm.
so I don't always, so I wonder if people,
If they
people
get
forget.
that. Yeah.
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 You said a key
Nobody
word though,
has,
Adina.
you're right. Nobody
Okay.
has the one answer. There's
Okay.
always some wiggle room. There's always ways to move.
Adina said a big word there, grace. Give yourself some grace,
Yeah.
man. Like you give everybody else all that grace, but when it comes to ourselves, we're so hard about it.
Grace.
Yeah.
Grace.
And give the space some grace. Give the
Yes.
relationship grace. Give that person's, show them some grace, even if you don't feel like they're showing it to you. All of that. It's just a whole nother way to move.
Oftentimes that's how you get it.
Yeah.
Like instead of standing there saying, show me grace.
Yes, right.
You show them how to show you.
Yeah,
grace.
even
Like
with that
showing
list. A
them.
lot of people have a list of what they want, but
Yeah.
look at that list. Does that list apply to you too?
Are you all you can get what you want?
Mhm.
Right. Or even if you don't get what you are, you're going to be what you are to that person. Even if they check all that, you're going to be giving them what you're giving them. And even if they come with all this, what is that even going to look like? Right. So not that you have to be the exact same thing that you are hoping your partner will be, but I don't always know that we are, just as we don't have the same high level requirements of ourselves
that we
demand of others.
Mhm.
That's the
What
problem.
was the
That's out of alignment.
Yeah.
what was the
That's out of
writer?
alignment.
Somebody wrote something about write a list
Mm-hmm.
of all the things that you want and then ask yourself, can you give that to yourself or are you willing to give it to that person?
Right.
Like we'll never measure up to the stuff that I'm talking to myself. I don't always measure up to the list that I have. I want things I'm not doing for myself done for me. And it starts with me. Source. One of you said
Starts
that.
with us. Thank you, Melissa. Anyone
Thank
else
you.
have anything they want to say before we close out? Y'all want to say to Lamman?
We need to have another part to this. This is a
Yeah.
very good conversation, but this can go on and on and on because components,
You're going a lot of different directions, Yolanda. You're right.
Yeah, I would.
Right.
I would love to have a part 2 or part 3.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's so grown. It's so grown and
Grown and
So
respectful.
sexy
wrong.
up in here.
Yeah.
Grown and sexy.
Well,
And let me let y'all know, Yolanda traveled with me to Bali this year.
Yes.
Yolanda was on
Oh,
the
yeah?
second week
Hey,
in Bali, and
Yolanda.
she's coming back
Yeah.
this year.
So give us a testimony. Tell us about the trip.
Tell us, Yolanda. Tell them what you thought.
It was an amazing experience. I learned about sisterhood for the first time in my life. I'm 58 and I really, really learned about sisterhood and something about myself. And things that I needed to look into myself as it relates to healing. Like Lamman, you said earlier, just looking at what you need to do with yourself. And I'm still working on that. I mean, that was a week. It doesn't happen overnight. But I did learn how to kind of step back and reflect on some things, and that's what I guess I'm doing now. We went back in July, but I really, really learned about the sisterhood and learning to look deep into myself and learning a little bit more of who I am. Part of as I was reluctant to want to do, but when I sat and thought about it, I said, she's actually right, because after I had my reading too, I think we all did, if I'm not mistaken, some things I just didn't think about as it related to me. But I'm learning myself a lot more after this trip, and I am still healing in some aspects. In other aspects, I'm in a calm state too. Bali is definitely a place to go because everything is just so, it's a vibration there. I can't really explain it, but it is definitely a vibe there that is very calming. The people there were very calming, and I want to go back, honestly.
Hey, let's go, baby.
I want to go back. I'm still working on that, Aditi.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a spot for you.
Yeah.
Yvette has signed up. Yvette is coming with us in 2025. She's going to celebrate a nice landmark birthday in Bali.
Oh yeah. How you
Yeah.
at?
Hi, yeah, I sure am. I'm so excited. I'm ready.
Yeah, I see the smile on your face. Look,
It
she
all.
like you turned into that little
She
kid we
already
was
I
talking
know,
about.
right?
She said,
Right?
look, I can see your feet like moving under the table.
Yep, I'm too excited. My sister actually went last year for her milestone. She's younger than me, so her 50th. And she was telling me somewhat about the experience, but I'm ready to experience, the goddess technology part of going to Bali, and I can't
Yeah.
wait
Mhm.
to hit that
Tell y'all
golden
something.
room.
Let me tell y'all something. We talked about magical women. We talked about this like the child spirit. What I'm seeing from y'all right now is got me beaming like so bright because this is exactly what we're talking about. This joy that I see coming through all of you, this youth, this innocence, this playfulness, this, not who cares that, yeah, I'm you're bashful, you're kind of giddy and shit like that. Like letting all that stuff go is part of what I love about processes and opportunities like this and conversations like this. And I wish, y'all can see what I see, but you can't see it through my eyes, but you can see it through yours. But I'm feeling all this energy, even just through this screen. But I see it in your smiles. I can almost, I'm visualizing your recall and your recollections of things and your hope for things, and even sights unseen still, right? And that's that joy, that encouragement is I think is a really beautiful, like powerful thing. So
Thank you, Lamman.
keep that, like
Okay.
keep feeding that and keep feeding that in each other, because I see it. It's coming through heavy. And who else is this chiming in?
What's up?
I was like, somebody else just popped in. Oh, really? She was just chilling in the dark.
You got some, and Chicago's coming to Bali too this year. So
Yeah.
Listen,
it's going to be
Nice.
lit.
It's
Can
gonna
I
be
come?
lit.
can
Huh?
I come?
Yeah.
Yes, you
All right.
can.
Adina,
We're
we
going to do
might
the
have
co-ed
this
retreat
might
after this one.
Right.
this
Can I
might
come? I'll
turn
have
into
my.
the
It'll
co-ed
be
retreat.
just me. I ain't bringing a whole bunch of dudes. Be just
No.
me
You just come and
and
chill
y'all.
out.
We're gonna
You
do
chill
our
out.
thing from the, give y'all a little bit of, the Lamman therapy.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
that'd
so
be
excited.
beautiful.
I'm so excited. I'm so glad you shared the testimony. Now
have
I was supposed
have
to
a
come
session
that
that's
first trip.
just with me.
Yeah.
But what about everybody heal? You guys could really host something magical. I'm gonna take my planner hat off, but that could happen.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Yes.
Because we're here now and we've been talking all day about the magical things we can do and the things he's doing with the brothers, the things we're doing with the women.
And these are things I've done with women. So I don't
Yeah.
only do this with men and, or just men and boys. I mean, I've been working in this space, like we said, as artists. And I think one of the things that's often missing is we can often visualize and accept women, doing this with men, right? Because that's the mother child,
Right.
kind of, right? And we very rarely consider, oh yeah, there's conversations that, men can have. So I even contributed to a book called Saving Our Daughters, for example, years back. And it was one of the first times a lot of even men considered like, oh yeah, like our relationship with our daughters is so important. It's not just, the father to the son, right? It's how valuable and how pivotal and how instrumental that relationship is between father and daughter, between brother and sister. You know, even in my work, if any of y'all familiar with Greenleaf, one of the major things that informs Jacob's role in Greenleaf is his relationship with his sisters. All right. It's not only his relationship with his mother and his relationship with his father, and not only all of his sisters, but in particular, his relationship with his older sister. When she leaves, that abandonment, that connection that he had with his older sister, because for a long time it was just the two of them, right? We're in relationship with all of you, every single one of you. That connection to every single woman and girl in our lives, whether it's the brother, sister, whether it's the, you know, teacher to student, the therapist to, you know, client, patient, whatever, like it's so key, but it informs so much of every single role that I've played. I always focus on what is that energy between, you know, the man and all of the women in his life, whether it be mother, you know, parallel relationships, right? Remember Jacob and his daughter, naturally the challenging relationship with his wife. Then remember he loses a sister, right? Which again, symbolically, faith, right? Committed suicide. I mean, these things aren't by accident, right? But my point in bringing that up is, you know, I think we often forget that we can be of service to you, right? Just the same in a very, and again, and I use this word not broadly, but generously, intimate with you without it being a certain type of intimacy. And I was telling you about my product line earlier. And I don't know if either you were familiar, but I had a product line years ago called For Play by Lamman Rucker. And the philosophies were, the primary theme and principle was intimacy. We didn't always talk about it clearly that way. No, but see, that's my point. That's where most people jump when they hear the word, exactly. But most people, when they hear the word intimacy, it's only sexual intimacy that we're talking about. But then what's the other real kind of duality that I believe is innate? It's spiritual intimacy, right? So then each of us, if nothing less, we're spiritual and we're sexual beings.
Intimacy.
That is the duality, and it's that intimacy. It's the intimacy between our sexual beingness and our spiritual beingness that is the real work that we have to do, right?
That part.
And that's that personal relationship, because everything's about relationship. And again, intimacy.
It's all
what relationships matter? Your relationship with yourself, how we relate to each other. And I actually broaden that to all living things, not only people, and in our relationship to whatever that universal source and spirit and power and energy is above. Other than that, what else is there?
I'll give you this word to spin intimacy. To into
me, I see.
Right.
Yes,
We're gonna stop
indeed.
saying the same thing.
Exactly.
Okay. We're gonna stop saying the same. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. No, that's how we roll. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Shea butters on and all that kind
That's
of
right.
stuff.
Exactly. So again, unfortunately, so this isn't a shameless plug, because unfortunately the business is discontinued. But that was our process. It was really a 3-step daily ritual. It was a body scrub. So again, part of what we're talking about every day through the water purifying and bathing process. You use the scrub to cleanse yourself, you know, let go, release, again, toxins, energies, doubt, negativities, all that, right? You bathe that, rinse that, wash that stuff off you, right? Then you get out, you moisturize yourself with the body butter, right? You pamper yourself, you take care, right? You nourish and nurture yourself. And then there's a body oil that's for, you know, that additional layer really of pampering, of scent, of this, of whatever you want to go with it, you know, use it on somebody else if you want to. I can't tell you how many people were like, what is that on you? Hold on, check this out. I was doing a show in New York. One of my castmates was even like, bruh, he was like, dog, stop wearing that stuff when we're on show dates. He was like, dog, you smell too damn good. I'm trying to stay in character. And so again, not that there was any sexual attraction to each other, but even with, you know, other men, boy, it didn't matter. the product not only was so bomb, but it's just the fact that sometimes it's literally what we're giving off
Right.
is really not only what we topically put on,
Mhm.
but it's combined with what's coming out of us,
Ashe.
right? And that's what really creates
Mhm.
connection.
Ashe.
And it's a reflection of, like I said, the magic, that light, that power, that beauty, that's already in every single person. So that's right. So y'all keep it
Sure.
going, but you know,
You with me in Bali. I surely do. I see your comment about manifesting this, womb
yeah,
manifesting this.
yeah.
All things are possible.
My trip to Bali,
That's what
years ago,
Tell me your favorite part.
10 years ago, my
What's your
favorite part, one of the things that always speaks to me is you can't take a step without seeing the offerings all over the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my
And it's
favorite
just
part.
it's one of those reminders that it's like, it's just an
That's how they
omnipresent reality
Mhm.
in that country and in that culture, that it's always this spiritual connection and relationship. You know, also, no matter how they try to modernize things and there's all these beautiful resorts here and there, there'll be something brand spanking new right here, but then right next to it is something that looks like it's centuries old, you know, so there's something about that juxtaposition that that I found really significant there.
The
And
mix
again,
with the old and the new.
I proposed to my wife in Bali, and I didn't think it was going to happen because literally every single day that we were there, first of all, I'm carrying this ring around because I'm waiting on the perfect moment, right? And there were a couple things that we did and events that we went to, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect! It's going to be a full moon ceremony, and we're going to be here and coming, and we're going to get bathed in this temple, and after that, I'm like." Wow. And then, you coming up, I'm writing my own movie, right? Like that's what we're doing. And that's what most of us unfortunately do. We get caught up in our own romanticism, but then similarly, I didn't give up on it. I didn't give up, I let go. And when I let go, let me tell you something. We woke up the day we were about to leave. And if y'all knew my wife, you would also know how significant what I'm about to say is. And she said, you know what? I surrender. I almost lost my damn mind. I said, I'm sorry.
Like, what?
Right? Now by this time, I'm actually starting to even feel a little defeated because we've been here almost 2 weeks and I'm starting to feel like, oh man, God must not want this for us or must not want this. All these things, these ways that you can start to talk to yourself. But at the same time, I also legitimately said, well, you know what? Just because I wanted it to happen here doesn't mean this is the time and the place that this is going to happen. Because a year and something prior, we were going to be in South Africa and I was going to do it there. And that ended up not happening. It ended up not going to South Africa. But as fate would have it, just a quick backtrack, we go to Charleston instead. And you know what happened in Charleston? I found an acupuncturist who's the woman that actually then invited us to Bali. That ended up then being the perfect place and opportunity. The very last day, we decide, you know what? Let's go to the beach. We went to try to find the water and we got rerouted because that then, you know what? Okay, we're not going there. Oh, sure. Somebody says, let me take you to this place, right? Like, okay, sure. We go over here. We're going to see some dolphins. We're sitting eating. And I look up and I'm like, is this sand black sand?
You at our beach? Which beach?
Black Beach.
Black Sand Beach.
Okay.
Karamiti.
Okay. Yeah, we want a black sand beach.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry. Is this black sand that looks like it's glistening with gold?
Sparkling.
Right?
Yes.
And I was like, we at this new age little restaurant, cafe. And I look up and look over and I'm like, again, what is this thing that looks like a 10th century BC temple or castle, next door right? Because beyond that is a brand new resort full of high-end villas, right? So it doesn't look like it belongs. Like literally, had I not done this, I would have never known it even existed there, right? So my wife goes to the bathroom and I'm like, I'm gonna sneak over there real quick. Let me get a closer look. So it ends up, long story short, being the perfect location for me to make this thing happen. couldn't have drawn it up better. Couldn't have happened a better day, better weather. There was nobody on the beach. So of course I said, okay, so I shut the whole beach down. You know, I planned it this way, right? Being silly, right? But I mean, a moment that you couldn't have planned. Again, her organically getting up, saying something that was true to her heart and her spirit at that time, where she said, you know what? I surrender. I've been worried about things. I've been worried about this, worried about where we're going, worried about what you're already my husband. You're already going to be my partner. I'm here. I'm committed. You haven't shown me anything else other than the same thing exists and is true for you. I had no idea this ring was in my bag,
That's
you know,
perfect.
but I was like, oh,
That's beautiful.
wow, right? And then I believe there's a way that everything just fell in line and, you know, came to form as it should. And a lot of times it takes you taking your hand off the wheel, let go, let God, trusting yourself, again, trusting even your partner who might not have shown any signs prior that they would say anything to the likes of what she said. But she meant it. And I believe, again, it all starts with her. That's another example of me. I can confirm in so many ways, even just for this woman alone. I believe the things that then happened for us and in our lives started with moments where she made certain decisions, certain declarations, certain commitments, even to herself, that changed everything that happened, you know, afterward, you know? Yeah, she stopped eating meat, you know, for a while. And then I believe that, you know, enabled us to get past, right, even fertility issues that we were concerned about. So there's these little things, I'm telling you, so much of it's in your hands. And if you can manifest it for yourself, it will manifest everywhere else around you.
We've created the whole world, ladies.
Without a
We can
doubt.
do everything.
Without a doubt.
To organize our technology in the direction that we decide to go. So y'all know I am the goddess of magical movement, so I can't let Lamman come here and not get some belly dance in. So he bust a couple hip bumps. It's his face. Not playing. It's not already playing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put something on my phone. You see his face? I'm gonna put this on my phone. We're gonna drop a couple hip bumps and we're gonna be out of here. Don't cry. It's gonna be okay.
We're gonna join you.
Don't record this.
It's recorded, babe.
No
It's
pictures,
recorded.
no record.
Don't
we
even
get to
worry
join
about
you?
it. Just go with the flow. Go with the flow, Lamont.
It's
Go
gonna
with
be
the flow.
fun. And it's right here on my phone. So we're gonna just stand up. Let's see. Can y'all see us?
Yes.
Come on, stand up.
Okay, I can't believe I'm going through with this too.
All we doing right here, come this way.
All right, make sure I get my.
Wait, you gotta.
No,
face
we
the
got. I'm
camera.
tall
We need
enough.
to
You
hold
tall enough?
you.
I'm tall enough.
Okay.
Yeah, they got my hips in here. What we doing? Oh, we doing like that.
Push it up.
Hey,
Now let's drop.
Hey,
drop.
Drop. Drop. Drop. Hey. Now, come on. Come on. Hey.
What is that? Drop. 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 Hey, drop.
Drop.
That is funny.
Yvette, you know you're supposed to be dropping
Now I
too.
just need my
You know
little bit. I
better.
need my beads. Can I get my man beads?
Oh, you need some beads? I got
But
some
no,
for
I'm
you.
good.
I got some for you.
Hey, Marcy.
See, you got to be willing to make a fool out of yourself. We're there.
Thank you,
No,
Lamar.
Nice to
a
meet
man
y'all.
that can
Thanks for
laugh
being
and
here.
have
Nice to meet
fun
you.
is
Thank you. If you're interested, we're going to do the interest call that gets all into the trip details on Thursday. So if you're interested and you're not already signed up, I invite you to do that Thursday at 7. And we'll just talk about the trip and the details and all of that. So everyone who's on this call, I'll make sure. Hey, we're selling this VIP experience in Bali. Lamman already told you how magical it is. A place for magical women to remember their magic and get out here and shift, shake, shift, and do your thing, okay?
okay.
So love you, appreciate you.
It's a great
Tell
place.
your friends about what's up, and let's change the world, goddesses. Let's change the
Temples
world.
everywhere, great
I
food,
say.
Black people everywhere.
Yes.
The dollar goes a long way.
Yeah.
The water is beautiful. The craftsmanship is great. You can come out of there with great pieces of art,
Yeah.
woodwork, and carvings. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, yeah.
Yes.
Very
I'm actually trying not to go after this year. I've been 4 years straight now, Adina.
Feel like you need a
Find
break.
someplace else to go.
Break
I
from
love
magic.
it.
You better get on over there with us.
good food.
You already know I'm coming.
So,
Look, she's like,
coming.
I'm just see like, saying.
Lots of
We're
walking.
over an hour and a half, so we're going to go. This will be shared in snippets. The dancing part 2. He did great, didn't he? Good job. Let me give a little shake.
Thank you.
Thank
ladies.
We appreciate you.
I appreciate
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank
too. I
you so
love
much.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Spread the word. Spread the
Yeah.
word.